Welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. I'm foregoing my regular Death Crock and latte. Water today. And a lot of it. I haven't been drinking a lot of water lately. And I'll get my system in better order. Conflict. A while ago I discussed the river and how you can make things interesting for a party of adventurers in a role-playing game by having them conflict with their environment, with nature. Category 5, uphill river flowing downhill. That can be interesting. There's another form of conflict, however, that I referred to in that video that I wanted to cover in a little more depth. And that is a conflict within the character themselves. A conflict of morals and or ethics. You can go whole campaigns in a role-playing game and never have this come up. It doesn't have to be addressed. This is a deep thing. This is a character plumbing thing. This is reaching in deep and finding out things about the character that you might not otherwise have had a chance to know. But if you're just out there to kill bad guys and take their stuff and lather, rinse, repeat, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly good way to play an RPG. But all too often, a game master or dungeon master will discover that their characters don't have much in the way of limitations. You know, you throw some monsters and they kill the monsters and take their stuff and they move on, and well, and it's very linear. It doesn't provide a lot of opportunity for role play. It's when people have conflicts and problems. It's when one person believes something should be done one way and another person believes it should be done another way. It's not just a conflict between those two characters, but the characters have to justify themselves and their point of view. If that doesn't sound interesting or exciting, that's understandable, because it's not rolling dice and putting arrows in orcs. But I personally find that the games that people talk about years later are the games where inter-party and interpersonal conflicts take up as much or more time than beating people with swords or shooting them with guns. When you make a character, any role-playing game, and you make a character that you want to play, well, you can want a lot of stuff out of that character. I want the character to be able to beat up these monsters. I want this character to be able to sneak into these places. I want a character who can throw these spells, who can figure these things out. And all good goals, even all in the same character. But if that's the only thing you're looking at the character, if you're only looking at what the character can do, it can get dry and boring. It turns into another session of I go in, I kill things, I come out, I spend the money. Dungeons and Dragons has, from its inception, had a system involved in character generation that made it possible to dig a little bit deeper. And this is the controversial and still present alignment system. I love the alignment system. It's got its flaws. It's not perfect, but it is a very good, rough outline of a character's moral and ethical alignment. Are you good? Are you evil? Do you sit somewhere in between? Do these concepts not mean much to you? Do you like to follow the laws? Do you prefer to write your own rules as you go along, changing them as they suit you? Or do these matters not bother you and just like to stay flowing and situational like nature? It's very cardinal pointy. There are a number of absolutes involved. Even if you're very free flowing and very neutral about things, it's still a point on the chart, and that's fine. 9 different choices of various ethical and moral alignments, and that's nice because you've got built-in conflict. Not every character can have every alignment. I want to play one of these. Well, you can only be one of these. That's been relaxed in later editions, especially the current one, which I'm very fond of. There are more suggestions. Clerics can follow their god's alignment, as can paladins. But it means that you're going to have some people who believe things one way and some people who believe things another way, and there will be actions that occur over the course of the game which are going to make these clash. I was running for the Manhattan Beach group. There's a paladin in the party, lawful good. Altruism above all else while you are following the laws of the god and the land. Lawful good. Paladins get a bum rap in Dungeons and Dragons a lot. You've got to kick the paladin in the shins so that we can do the actual stuff. The paladin is great for healing and some magic, but you don't want to let him get involved in any of the other stuff because we got to do dark and gritty things, and he's just going to get in our way. This is not by the paladin's choice. The paladin is operating by the dictates of their deity, from which they derive direct power by the deity's mandate. Paladin isn't just there to make your life difficult. The paladin is there to be the arm and voice of the deity they follow. The rest of the party in Manhattan Beach for Dungeons and Dragons game is mostly chaotic good, neutral good. They're all good, but they ended up with a prisoner. Not an evil prisoner, not a good prisoner. A green slod. Being from the dimension of limbo, chaotic neutral, to be precise. Had a great time explaining why a protection from good and evil spell was not going to work on this particular character. Yeah, but it protects against aberrations. Yes, but he's not evil. Nor is he good. He's neutral. The spell is called protection from good and evil, not protection from aberrations. Sorry. Tangent. The slod has been disarmed, has succumbed to a command from the paladin to surrender, a magical command to surrender. Is in his zone of truth. He can't lie. He cannot act against the party. He has elected to cooperate because they will kill him. And granted, and he tells them quite honestly, zone of truth, that the moment he gets an opportunity, he'll probably turn on them because he's chaotic neutral and his oaths don't really mean anything. He also divulges the fact that there's a gemstone in his brain, which, if they can get a hold of it, will give them complete control over him. How do you get this gemstone out? Wish spell. Or a similar ritual of the same level, which is way above the party's level at the time. Conflict ensues. Oh, they've got access to a wish spell, but they get one a year. Do you want to burn it on this? Oh, one's the rock out of his head. Well, he regenerates, right? I've got a +1 short sword. Sit on the slod. So, prisoner, surrender prisoner, cooperating prisoner. Party sits on him, and they prepare to perform surgery. They can't knock him out. He's immune to the magics and the poisons that might allow them to put him to sleep for it. They're about to cut into his head, open his brain, and pull out the rock that is everything he has of free will. I need to remind the party at this point in time that what they're about to do is torture. You are using physical force, causing injury, for the purpose of removing a sentient being's free will. I mean, it's not only actual torture, it's metaphorical torture, it's allegorical torture, it's torture across every single definition. I did not need to remind the party of this because I objected to what they were doing. Tactically, pragmatically, it was probably their best course of action. Ignoring moral and ethical implications. Yeah. And there were mostly chaotic and neutral goods in the party, so, ethics. This gets the job done. And we don't have to kill him this way. We can just, control him. So we're saving his life, really, by torturing him. Well, if we don't do this, we got to kill him. Oh, absolutely. But you're torturing him. The reason I had to tell the party that this was torture was because there was a paladin present. And a lawful good paladin cannot condone torture. Can't. There's a ethical and moral compass there, and the needle is pointing to no. And the paladin had to fight with himself first. The player of the paladin was very quiet during this time. Ross Skypes into the game, so we can't always see him, and we can't always, I can't read facial expressions a lot. So I'm not seeing the processes going on. And sometimes he has to mute because he's got things going on in the background. But no, Ross was listening. And the paladin was conflicted. Because, this is the most pragmatic course of action. This solves an awful lot of problems for the party down the line. And saves the life of someone who's cooperating with them by torturing them. Paladin could have left. Paladin could have, with some internal difficulty, walked out of the room. I can't condone this, but it has to be done. I'm going to go talk to someone else. Hey, I'm going to go down to the temple and see how the temple is doing. I don't have to be here at the moment. You guys carry on. Didn't. No. Paladin intervened. Saved the slot from torture. Took some convincing. But that was half an hour of excellent role-playing, of people questioning their characters and their beliefs and the definition of what they were doing. It was a conversation that I enjoyed seeing in action and that the characters enjoyed being a part of. Interesting things happened to the Slod after that because the characters did not stop torturing him exactly. It was subtle. It was psychological. They led into things. I have an unpleasant thing for the Slod. Let me help the Slod experience this unpleasant thing. This could be funny. Let me expose the Slod to this unpleasant thing. Slod ended up being so traumatized by some of the things that he saw in the minds of the players or the characters who were enjoying showing him unpleasant things, that he vomited his brain crystal and changed alignment. And there was an act of deity involved because it had to. The Slod would have died. It's psychological trauma to creatures like that, a little bit different than what can happen to a person, and the Slod would have had to it would have been terrible. Turned into a Slaughter's Paladin. Lawful Good went back to the Limbo. They're going to meet him again. It's going to be fascinating. I enjoy playing characters when I am playing a game as opposed to running, that are going to run into these conflicts. I have a long history of characters who are former villains or former criminals, the criminal background, or they're working for the wrong side, and now they're trying to find their way back, but they only have a vaguest sense that what they had been doing was incorrect, and now they need to path their way back. Essentially, I am making characters that are inviting the rest of the party to explain why things would be wrong. A lot of this is because of the fun that a friend of mine, Joe, had when he was playing a abomination, a demon in the game Feng Shui. I can only say his first name in a vlog, that being Kitten Eater. The second part of his name is so vile I cannot actually voice it online. No, not unless I want to strike or something from YouTube. So, but this character whose inspiration was drawn from such diverse places as some of the more horrific hentai available and old horror movies from the 80s, had a catchphrase. He would engage people in conversation, describing the most horrific, vile acts he could imagine, and then tilt his head and look at the other character and say, "Would that be wrong?" And invite the other characters to explain why it would be wrong. That was... Joe and I drove back from Santa Cruz. It's a good 6-8 hour drive, and had an entire set of conversations over the entire drive, from Kitten Eater's point of view, asking what things would be wrong. It was amazing. And I think that has influenced a lot of my role playing since then. You know, the former gang member or member of the Black Sun, the former world conquering villain who almost accidentally nuked Nebraska and served time to pay his debt to society. Remember the old evil organization who didn't understood suddenly that there was a problem with what the organization is doing, but couldn't understand why. Because I want those conversations. I want those explanations. I want... Yeah, there's a lot of shooting things and stabbing things and beating up the bad guys and taking their stuff, but in the middle of it, every so often, there's a prisoner. There's someone who might be saved or not, someone who you could leave to die or rescue, someone who might or might not deserve terrible treatment. And how do you make those decisions? Character who asks the most infuriating, damning question that you can possibly ask in the middle of a group of adventurers that are trying to get things done. Why? Why are you letting him live? Why are we helping this person? I'm not saying I'm not going to do it. In fact, we can have this conversation while we're helping them, but why are we helping them? It doesn't slow the game down, really. It might slow the storyline of the game down, but watching people rack their brains for justification. It's not just a conflict for the character that I'm playing. It becomes a conflict for everyone else. Because it makes them realize and have to process what they're doing. We do so many things by rote in role-playing games. Kill the bad guys, take their stuff, lather, rinse, repeat. And sure, you computer game, you shoot the bad guys, and you loot their bodies, and you load your gun up with their ammo, and you go and kill some more bad guys. That's how it's done. A good computer game gives you options. I don't have to kill them. Maybe I can stun them. Maybe I can talk to them. Oh, that's the best. That's why I like the Deus Ex series, because you often have options of doing things a different way. I could sneak past this. I could go balls out and blow my way through with weapon fire. I could maybe have a conversation with someone else and see if I can work my way around this. I could hack a computer and make people go away. I like doing that in role-playing games. How do I approach this? And why should I approach it that way? There's a cookie-cutter solution. Roll the hit. Oh, look, bad guys. Roll initiative. Roll initiative is the code word for, okay, we can forget all about morals and ethics. We are in combat now. I'm rolling to hit until everyone's gone. Or until I am, or whichever. Either way, good Saturday evening. When I play one-on-one with my friend and co-writer Victor Gibson, there's a lot of opportunities to break things and kill people. It's a role-playing game, but there's usually an equal amount of opportunities to talk. Hey, hang on. I haven't pulled my sword before you pull yours. What's the deal? Why are you doing this? Now, bad guy worth his salt will monologue for a minute. As long as you don't pull your sword and swing into it, monologue will keep going, and you might find out that they're not the bad guy. Or at least not as bad a guy as you think, and you might be able to come up with a solution. That's awesome. But that involves that inner conflict. I want to do things in a role-playing game. I want to swing my sword. I want to fire my bow. I want to pull back the action on my Glock and empty the clip. Having a character with a built-in inner conflict, whether it's through alignment or whether you've put flaws on the character, disadvantages, that give them that moment of, is this right? Is this the correct thing to do? And if not, why? More, having a character and a game where you are having to ask that question. It's not a action-packed running on catwalks, swinging from chandeliers, stabbing 3 guys at once with a great sword moment in a game, but it has its place there. It slows the action down a little bit, doesn't stop it. It applies a little bit of break. It keeps it from being constant, non-stop, roll to hit, roll to hit, roll to hit. There's a lot of ways to pace a game, good ways and bad ways. And I've seen, you can't constantly have combat. You can't. It gets super boring really fast. 1 or 2 fights a session, that's kind of awesome. 3 or 4 and you're pushing it. Any more than that and you're just rolling dice and you're not actually role playing. You get the same effect by playing a war game or Yahtzee for that matter. Now, you're there because you're playing a character, and as awesome as the character is at killing things, sometimes you want to talk or work things out in the character's head. And you can pace by, oh, well, you've got to go over there to kill things. And so you walk over there or drive over there or ride over there. Look, there's another thing out there. Oh, and there's a thing out there. Look, there's a thing. And you're walking a lot and traveling a lot. The thing I hate most in computer games. Well, you've got to go all the way over there. Yep, going over there. Taking a trip over there. We're heading in that direction. And boy, we were heading that direction really, moving. Or you can fill some of that space between combats and puzzles and problem solving. You can introduce character conflict. Not, I want to do this and I want to do that, so we've got to butt heads. But why? Why are we doing this? Why do we do this and not that? Would it be right to do this? Or would that be wrong? spices things up. Gives you a whole character. Makes you use every single one of those things listed on your character sheet, right down to alignment, right down to your flaws. I really want to get this done. Well, your character doesn't generally do that by what's on the character sheet. Well, you make a roll to see if I can overcome that. Okay, but you're going to have a problem with it. Why? If you think this is a better course of action and you don't want to do what's on your character sheet, why is it on the character sheet? Tell me. Just my 2 cents. Because I like stories. And again, 5, 10 years down the line, you sit down with the people you played this game with and the stories start coming out. And there will be a few stories about the combat, or when you did this thing and that guy, and maybe more stories about the conversations, about the interpersonal conflict, about the things that made you dig into that character. Well, thank you for following me on this particular journey into my motivations as a game master and as a player. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. Have things you'd like me to talk about, or experiences of your own digging into a character or not, and conflicts you've had within a character or between characters, leave me a comment. I love getting comments. You'll love leaving me a comment. If you'd like to see these videos as soon as they come out, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the little bell icon next to the subscribe button so you get these notifications as soon as they come out. If you really dug the video, I invite you to hit me up at my Patreon at www.patreon.com and consider donating. Anything is welcome and a blessing and helps me make better videos. I'm getting close to that point where I might actually be throwing in some fight choreography. I've got friends asking me when I'm going to be doing some more Uncle Drac style videos and perhaps what they can do in them. That's coming up. I've got some stuff up my head. If you'd like to see some Uncle Drac material, thumbs up, leave me a comment. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I am Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I will see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.